I once was chatting with a guy I randomly met at a coffee shop, and I don't recall much of the conversation, to be honest, but it revolved around dreams. And I can clearly remember something he said about switching the lights off in dreams and how it was impossible for us to do that. Like, if the lights are on and you cannot switch them off, then most probably you're dreaming. Anyways, as I was about to leave, he said, "Excellent Meraki, on the verge of your day." Confused as I was, I asked what that meant, and he admitted that he never truly figured it out. It was something that a dream character of his would usually whisper in his ear. So I smiled, heading to the door. I noticed the light switch, and out of absolutely nowhere, I had the sudden desire to switch it off. As I tried to, it wouldn't. I looked right back at the guy I was conversing with, and he had vanished. I then realized I was in a dream. As I got out of the coffee shop, I noticed that all of my senses had fully enhanced to universal scale. I stared at the sky, which was picturesque, and I could feel my whole body being lifted off the ground. I was finally flying. When I awoke that day, I was left with a feeling of bubbling joy that lasted for a week. Have you ever wanted to fly, travel through time, go to space, interact with people you've only dreamed of meeting? What if I told you escaping reality while being in control of yourself is possible? And it's something you're missing out on if you've never had it occur. Going to Mars, feeling the wind through your clothes while flying, being able to control landscapes, basically feeling heavenly and being aware of it is how I would define lucid dreams. Every single one of your fantasies is achievable. Not only freedom, but sheer happiness are its greatest outcomes. I'm not here to talk about science fiction, nor to refer to Christopher Nolan's movie Inception, with all its representations or misrepresentations of lucid dreaming. I am here to connect my own experience with lucid dreaming to what science says. Similar to metacognition, where one thinks about his or her own thinking, I want you to dream my own dreams. And maybe then you'd want to think or rethink your own, pay attention to tiny details, and enjoy higher levels of self-awareness or actualization. The fact that people can lucid dream is not under dispute. Literally speaking, lucid means clear. But it's not only about clarity, but more about control. So the question is whether or not we can control our dreams to an extent that they become clear enough for us to start enjoying the adjective lucid. Some scientists, such as Daniel Ehrlicher, answers this question with a definite yes. Before talking about how to get into that parallel universe, knowing about the sleep cycle that we go through every night is somewhat important. Light sleep is stage 1 and 2. One might feel drowsy, like they're floating over their bed or falling from it. During the second stage, the brain starts releasing massive amounts of energy, which indicates that one is now moving towards stage 3 and 4, which consist in deep sleep. And it's during those two last stages that the brain produces brain waves, also known as delta waves. Eventually, it reaches the REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, which is when we dream, and the stage in which we're interested. Now, to get into the lucid dream realm, you need to learn to distinguish between reality and fantasy. In other terms, between being awake and dreaming. When you recognize dreams as what they are, you can become lucid. First off, it's extremely helpful to start a dream journal. So every morning, as soon as you wake up, You write down your dreams in as much details as you can. And after a while, you're going to notice that you're remembering them better. You can then look for recurring themes or situations to help you realize that you're dreaming. Those are known as dream signs. The second step is to execute reality checks to test whether or not you're dreaming. So, those are actions that you'll do during the day in order to condition your mind to become more aware of itself. For example, if you start constantly asking yourself whether you're asleep or awake during daytime, you'll be developing a habit. And like all habits, you'll start doing that unconsciously as well. By that, I mean that you'll do it in your dreams. Only then, the answer won't be I'm awake. And through this, you'll realize that you're in fact dreaming. Also, counting your fingers, checking the time, looking at yourself in a mirror would provide you with a better understanding of your current state, since everything is distorted and will act unnaturally in dreams. Now, learning to become a lucid dreamer can have a considerable impact on your everyday waking life in more than one way. Not only you become happier, you also start paying attention to the details of what used to seem ordinary. You gain a greater sense of self-confidence, awareness, control, because the lucid dream is like a playground or a fun fair for experimentation. The only limit is your imagination. So whatever you can imagine, you can pretty much do. Anything as far as your fantasy reaches. And trust me, you have more fantasy and creativity in you than you think. You start using the canvas or the platform of the lucid dream to gain insights and access to levels of mind which in the waking state are often inaccessible. Lucid dreams expose our most innovative side because of the free flow of concepts or ideas arising from our subconscious. Many artists like Salvador Dali, inventors like Einstein, composers like Beethoven, and even Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland, gave credit to lucid dreaming as being the birthplace of their brainchild or creativity. Also, since you'd be manipulating the dream, you can overcome any nightmare. If you don't like the scary creature, tell it to go and it will disappear or might be transformed into a friendly one. Some people have used it to confront their fears and become desensitized of their phobias. Now, let me share with you my own personal experience in this regard. Growing up in Africa, it was pretty usual for me to have daily encounters with reptiles. And to say the least, I was so not a big fan of them. One day, I was just arriving to school, getting out of the car, that I felt that something was climbing on top of me and holding grip to my shirt. As I looked down to see what it was, I had the most traumatizing experience in my life that scarred me for a long while. It was a lizard. And since then, I would have recurring nightmares in which I'd be lying quietly in bed, then see a whole army of lizards trying to invade it, some of them even making their way through. I would wake up terrified and stayed up for nights on end to avoid that invasion. Till one day, it was happening again, and as I had gotten used to it, I realized this must be a dream, because in real life, if they saw me move, they would flee. And like in the dreams where I didn't have much control. So this time, I decided I would scare them for a change. I got up and I shouted at them, "It's my dream, and I do not want you in it." They suddenly stopped in time, as if they had been frozen, looking at me with fear in their human-like eyes. I then asked, "Why are you here?" And they answered in some obscure lizardy language. Not making any sense to me, of course. But anyways, that's to say that I ended up having closure with that irrational fear because I somehow expressed what I felt towards them in that dream. And waking up, I felt relieved. I held on to the belief that I have more power over lizards than I previously thought. I had conquered herpetophobia, my numero uno fear, by, I guess, 90%. And on days where I feel like I'm weighed down by stress, I decide before falling asleep to become lucid and go to space. I travel upwards, going beyond the atmosphere, and look down on Earth from up there. I feel pretty small then, like nothing else really matters, not even me. It really is fascinating how small we are compared to the vastness of the universe. In lucid dreams, none of the laws of physics apply. So the best thing to do is taking advantage of that situation. For instance, in my next lucid dream, I'm looking forward to experience no gravity at all. By that, I mean going underwater, being able to breathe and explore the infinities of the ocean. I've had several debates by now with my close friends about what they deemed as a waste of my time and effort in advocating for lucid dreaming. When I've exhausted all avenues in convincing them, I often refer to the renowned expert of lucid dreaming, Dr. Stephen Laber's argument. If you must sleep through a third of your life, why should you sleep through your dreams too? Lucid means clear. I like clarity and will say it in a crystal clear manner. I want to be in charge of my life, but as we all know, life always manages to surprise us one way or another. The good news is, I can at least be in charge of that third of my life. Thank you.